So today I wanted to follow up on a previous video I did back in November of 2020. You can check out that video here. I want to talk about emission standards. Now, in the United States, there are two different standards. There are federal standards and there are California standards. The California standards are more stringent. Other states, as you can see in this map here, have adopted the California standards. But having different standards can complicate things for manufacturers to the extent that some manufacturers have joined in on a lawsuit to stop California's ability to have their own standards. But I'm going to argue in this video and in the previous video that actually makes sense for automobile companies to adopt the California standards. Okay. So if we think about this lawsuit, we have kind of on the left here, Ford, BMW, Honda, VW. They said, look, we don't care about this lawsuit. We don't want to be a part of it. On the right, we have Toyota, GM, Subaru, et cetera. They said, look, we don't want these two standards. So we're going to sue California. We're going to sue to stop them from being able to have their own set of standards. Now, back in November, GM had a change of heart, said, look, no, we're going to go with the California standards. We don't care. We're dropping out of this lawsuit. Now, if you look at today's news here in February of 2021, you'll see that Toyota and Chrysler have said, look, no, we actually don't care either. We're dropping out of the lawsuit. But if you read the fine details of these news articles, you're actually going to see that all of these companies have switched sides, and there's no companies on this lawsuit side anymore. Now, for a trivial perspective, why is it that the Subaru symbol looks a little bit like this? And what is it? If you got this far, put in the comments if you know what that star cluster is. Now, in terms of emission standards, the problem here is that no matter what, well, first off, there are different standards, whether you're the United States, California, Europe, Latin America, they're different all over the world. And the trend is that these standards are getting more and more stringent. And it's going to continue that way, regardless of whether or not that lawsuit would have won or not. Now, if we look at it here, we're actually trying to get by 2040, like zero emissions from our vehicles. That is the trend. So it doesn't matter, right? That's just going to happen. Now, this is true for passenger vehicles here. It's also true from the perspective of heavy duty vehicles. Things are getting more and more stringent. We're going to zero emissions. We're going to get there eventually. Okay. You can also see here, just country by country, type of vehicle by type of vehicle, these standards are getting more stringent. That's happening. So it doesn't matter if you're in this lawsuit or not. This is going to continue. Even if there are setbacks, it's just slowly going to get there. Now, I'm going to argue that if it's going to get there anyway, you might as well get there on your own terms. Instead of fighting it, get there in a way that's more cost effective, do it incrementally, do it ahead of schedule. If you do it this way, it's going to be cheaper and more profitable for you as a company. If you sit there and fight it and fight it and fight it, and then you have to make these last minute changes, it is going to cost your company more money. That's just the way it's going to be. Now, the other thing to think about is, it actually has positive impacts if you do this on society, right? There's a social impact in terms of death and things of that nature by continuing to pollute the world. So you also have kind of this incentive to do right by your citizens, your customers, etc. In fact, your customers really want you to do this. The customers are aligned with companies that have good standards. They will actively go out there and buy companies that are doing the right thing from an emission standpoint and avoid companies that aren't from an emission standpoint. So it also will help your profitability just from a market share perspective if you go down this path. We can also see that in terms of investments, the ESG investments are growing as a share of portfolios. Now, this is complicated a little bit by the recent Department of Labor ESG rule. I have a couple of videos which you can check out there. I also think this is interesting from a perspective of popularity. People want to invest in companies that they feel good about. Now, there's another video here that you can check out that talks about popularity and in terms of asset pricing models. This is a long discussion, but it's very interesting with Roger Ibbotson. Now, again here, you got to think long-term. So kind of going down the path of being in this lawsuit is the short-term profitable way. Going down the path of saying, look, this is going to happen eventually. Let's be ahead of the trend. Let's do it in a cost-effective, efficient way. That is the long-term play for a company that will lead to long-term profits. Thanks so much for listening.